So today we will be going through with the electrostatics part of the second PU syllabus. So let us first understand the word electrostatics. The word electrostatic means electro meaning the charge, and static meaning to be at rest. That is, in this particular branch of physics, we'll be learning about the properties and phenomena related with the charges which are at rest. So, in this, first we will be dealing with the charge and its properties. So, what do you mean by a charge? So, charge is an intrinsic property of any body to either attract or repel another body. Charge is a property of a body which allows the body to either attract or repel another charge. So, in this case, remember one thing, there are two types of charges. One is a positive charge and other one is the negative charge. There are only two kinds of charges in existence in the nature, that is positive and negative. So always remember this, these positive charge and negative charge, these are related with either the presence or absence of an electron. That is, let's say if I am going to talk about an atom, we already know that atom consists of a nucleus with a positive charge, that is consists of protons and neutrons in it. Protons are positively charged, neutrons are neutral, and surrounding it there will be electrons which revolve around this, and these electrons give the necessary amount of negative charges to balance out the atom's neutrality. So here in this case, remember one thing, in case if I am going to remove one electron, this particular atom will now give a positive charge, that is due to the laws of electrons. So any body, if I have to charge it by either negative charges or positive charges, all I have to do is either I add electrons onto the body to charge it negatively, or I remove the electrons from the surface of the body to charge it positively. Now coming to the properties of these charges, remember one thing, there are two properties of these charges. One is the property of quantization. So what is this quantization? Quantization of charges means if I have to charge any body, I can charge a body, I can put a charge of q amount of coulomb onto a body which is equal to plus or minus n into E. That is, I can charge any body as an integral multiple. Integral multiple in the sense n can take the values 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. That is, I can have any integer value for n. That means I can't have values like 1.5, 0.5, 1.3, 2.4, all these values are not possible. Which means I can have a body which is charged with plus or minus 1 electron, plus or minus 2 electron charge, plus or minus 3 electron charge. Like this I can go on charging a body. I cannot have values like 1.2e, 2.4e, 3.1e, that is plus or minus, plus minus. Like this, I cannot have these fractional charges given to a body. That is, I can only charge a body as an integral multiple of the charge of an electron or a proton. So this is about the quantization of charges. That is, any isolated body can be charged with the number of charges equal to integral multiple of the charge on the charge on an electron or a proton. So this is about quantization property, which is the first one. The second one is nothing but the conservation of charges. Now for this, let us first learn about a method of charging the body, because here to understand about conservation we also have to understand about the redistribution of charges between two objects. So if I want to charge a body by using a very simple method, then I can do it by using a glass rod which is rubbed with silk. So if I am going to rub a glass rod with the silk, the glass rod will gain the positive charges as it has the less affinity towards electrons, and the silk with the silk cloth which is with which the glass rod has been rubbed, it has more affinity towards the electrons, so obviously it will be charged with negative charges. So here what is happening is that initially the glass rod was neutral, the silk cloth was also neutral. Now on rubbing both of them together, what happened was the glass rod lost its electrons and silk gained those electrons. That is, there was only a redistribution of charges between the two, and the net charge as a system, if I am going to consider the glass rod and silk cloth as a system, if I am going to consider, then the net charge once again turns out to be equal to 0. That is, if I have n electrons being lost by the glass rod, then the same number of n electrons have been gained by the silk cloth. So from this we can just define what is the conservation. Here in this case, the conservation of charges, it means to state that for an isolated system of charges, the net charge inside the system will always remain the same irrespective of whatever the process is happening inside the system. So this is about your conservation of charges. Now when it comes to the other phenomena related to the charges, let us see when these charges will attract and when these charges will repel. Remember one thing, unlike in case of gravitational force, which was a purely an attractive force, electrostatic force is having a nature which allows it to either attract or repel. That is, the electrostatic force can be either attractive between two charges or it can also be repulsive. In case, if I am going to take two charges, that is two like charges, whenever I take two like charges, the charges always repel with each other. That is, they will be exerting repulsive force on one another. The same way, if I am going to take two negative charges, the two negative charges also will repel each other. But in case, if I am going to take one positive and one negative charge, the positive charge will attract negative charge towards itself. In the similar manner, the negative charge will also attract the positive charge towards itself. That is, both will be exerting force on one another. So when it comes to the application of forces, there are two types of electrostatic forces. One is attractive electrostatic force, which comes into picture when we take two like charges. It may be two positive charges or two negative charges, or the attractive force, the electrostatic force also can be attractive force when we take the case where we have taken one positive and one negative charge. So when we talk about the electrostatic force is usually given by a law which we call it as the Coulomb's law. Now remember one thing, Coulomb's law is the most fundamental law in case of electrostatics. Most of the force and electric field related concepts can be understood using the Coulomb's law. So first let us understand what is Coulomb's law. Now when it comes to the Coulomb's law, it states that the force, that is the electrostatic force of either attraction or repulsion, will always be proportional to the product of magnitude of the two charges. That is, if I have two charges Q1 and Q2, then the values of these, that is, if I have to take these two charges, let's say if Q1 is positive and Q2 is negative. I am going to ignore this negative sign here. I am going to ignore this positive sign here. I just take the values of Q1 and Q2 in this case. That is, I have to just multiply the two values ignoring the sign of the charges. So F is proportional to the magnitude of the product of the two charges. Let's say if these two charges separated by a small distance r, then F is also inversely proportional to the square of the distance of separation between the two charges. And as we can see here, as r value increases, F value is going to decrease. That is, as we go on moving the charges further away from each other, the force will be going to go on reducing. So from this we can see that there is an inverse proportionality or inverse square dependence on the distance of separation of the electrostatic force. So combining these two, we can see that F is proportional to Q1 Q2 by r square. So we are going to just take a constant of proportionality here. So this will be some k by k into Q1 Q2 divided by r square. Now this constant of proportionality itself has a value. It is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught equals to 9 into 10 raised to 9 Newton meter square per coulomb square. So this is the value of the constant of integration in case of electrostatic force relation. Now in this case, we also have a small constant over here which we call it as the permittivity. The permittivity of free space. That is, if we are actually doing this particular experiment in air or vacuum, then we take up the value of epsilon naught as 8.854 into 10 raised to minus 12 coulomb square per meter square per Newton. So this is the value of permittivity of free space. That is, the epsilon or the permittivity, what we are calling here, it is actually a constant related to a particular medium in which we are actually keeping these two charges and observing what is the force experienced by each other. In case if we are going to take some other medium other than air or vacuum, so in such a case, instead of epsilon naught, we use epsilon, which is called as the absolute permittivity. Absolute permittivity. And absolute permittivity is given as a product of epsilon naught into epsilon r. Here epsilon r is called as relative permittivity, or it is also called as the dielectric constant of a medium. That is, it is a constant related to a medium. Remember one thing, absolute permittivity will have the same unit of the permittivity of free space, whereas epsilon r is a ratio of epsilon by epsilon naught. So in this case, remember one thing, epsilon r will be equal to 1 for air and epsilon r will be greater than 1 for most of the other media. Okay, so for other media, that is any other media, epsilon r, that is relative permittivity, will be a value which is greater than 1. So this is about your electrostatic force. Now let us go to the next concept. Why this electrostatic force does act on the two charges which are close by. So to understand this, let us take a small capital Q charge, and I am going to draw a certain boundary around this. I will not be able to draw a sphere, so let's just assume that this circle itself is a sphere. Now what I am going to do is I am going to bring a small unit positive test charge into this particular region. This region suggests, the boundary suggests this is the boundary up till which the electrostatic force concerned with capital Q is going to act on any charge which is entering into this region. and this particular region which is enclosing this source charge, we call it as the electric field. Okay, so electric field is a region which is surrounding a source charge, within which if I am going to place another charge, it will experience an electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion. If I am going to place a positive charge like plus Q over here, it will get repelled in the outward direction. The same thing if I am going to keep a negative charge, obviously it will be getting attracted. So in this case, remember one thing, the electric field is a region surrounding this capital Q, that is the source charge, within which a unit positive test charge is going to experience an electrostatic force. Now further, when we just have a look at it, the electrostatic force varies from one point to another point. That is, it is a position dependent quantity. So using this particular concept, we understand one more concept of the electrostatics. We call it as the electric field intensity. That is, the strength of electric field in electrostatic force at a particular region experienced by unit positive test charge, we call it as the electric field intensity. So electric field intensity is given by E bar, and this is also equal to F bar divided by Q. That is, force experienced by a unit positive charge or force acting per unit test charge will give us what is called as the electric field intensity. Simply we can call this as electric field instead of electric field intensity. So here electric field intensity will be given by the expression 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into capital Q by R square. You can see that capital E, that is the electric field, is independent of the test charge. That is, it will have its own existence around it within this particular region. So it is not going to be like if the test charge is not there, then the electric field doesn't exist. It will always exist surrounding a particular charge. And this electric field will have a unit of Newton per Coulomb. Okay, so electric field has a unit of Newton per Coulomb. Now within this particular electric field region, we can see that if the source charge is positive, so I have placed a capital Q charge over here, it's a positive charge. In this case, we can see that if I am going to place a positive test charge small q in the field, we can see that this positive test charge, unit positive test charge, will be repelled in the radially outward direction. If I am going to place it over here, it will get repelled in this direction. Here it will be in this direction, in this direction, in this direction, in this direction. That is, wherever I am going to place the plus q charge, it will be repelled in the outward direction. That is, radially outward direction. So like this, it will be repelled in the radially outward direction in the case of a unit positive, in case of a positive charge. So here the path which is traced, as you can see, this plus q charge is going to move in this direction, this q is going to move in this direction, this charge will move in this direction, this charge in this charge in this charge in this, like this. In the radially outward direction, the charges are moving in the outward direction by tracing a straight line path. So these imaginary straight line paths followed by a unit positive test charge within an electric field will be called as the electric field lines. So these are the lines of forces which are actually giving us the direction of a field in a particular medium. That is, if I have a particular electric field line existing within a medium, if I am going to draw a tangent to it, the tangent will give the direction of the electric field at that particular position inside the field. So this is about your electric field lines associated with the positive charge. The same thing if I am going to talk about the negative source charge. That is, if I am going to take a negative source charge instead of a positive source charge, so here I will be taking minus Q, then I will be placing a plus unit positive test charge over here, here, over here, over here, and over here. So you can see that these positive test charges will be actually moving in the radially inward direction. So we can see that when we take a negative source charge, the unit positive test charge will trace a path which is radially in the inward direction. So from these two examples we can see that for a positive source charge, the lines of forces, the electric lines of forces will always be in the outward direction, and for a negative source charge, the lines of forces will always be in the radially inward direction. That is, they will be originating from the positive charge and they will terminate at the negative charge. Okay, so this is about the electric lines of forces. Now there are certain properties associated with the electric lines of forces. The electric lines of forces will always originate from the positive charge and terminate at the negative charge. As you can see, these electric lines of forces in a uniform electric field will always be parallel to one another, and they are continuous. Lines of forces are always going to be continuous. They will never form a closed loop. The reason is very simple. If I am going to take a positive charge and a negative charge, we can see that the lines of forces always move from positive charge towards negative charge. But there is not a single line which is coming from negative charge to positive charge, so that a loop is formed. So here we don't have the possibility at all for the formation of a closed loop. So these are some of the properties associated with the electric lines of forces. More importantly, one more property is that the electric lines of forces never intersect with one another. That is, if I have two lines like this, so two electric lines of force, 1 and 2 if I am going to take, you can see that at this point if they are going to coincide, that is they are going to intersect with one another, at this position, the intersection means that the electric field will be simultaneously, it will be acting in the two directions. That is, it is as good as saying that I am looking at north as well as east or west or south at the same time. That is, I cannot look at two directions at the same point of time. So this is what is not possible even in case of electric lines of forces, and hence this is not a possibility. That is, electric lines of forces never intersect with one another. So this is about the electric lines of forces. So in the next session we will be talking about the electric potential and the related concepts.